Hello, I am the darkness. This one that I'm doing is just to be kind of transparent. What I want to do with this channel, what I want to do in terms of my own future, but mainly just with the channel itself. I feel like there's a lot of things that I come across um, in life overall, different things on the news, different things on YouTube itself, different, events that have occurred in my life or that I see happen in other people's lives. And I think it's something that I want to be able to kind of put my opinion on, regardless of people, whatever the case. Oh, who cares? Well, I mean, everyone has an opinion, and I guess it's worth it to some degree to express it. It's not something where I want to be kind of preaching it or kind of showcasing this idea that my opinion is more correct than others, but I do try to base my opinion in factual things, or how I'm looking at it, and sure, maybe others' perspectives may be something that could change my opinion, or modify it to some degree. um, but overall, the concept that I'm thinking of what I want to do with this type of you know media uh, is basically just kind of touch on things that I think are unique about our lives and in society overall. Things of certain crimes that occur, the way that we have laws that are being created, the interaction we have between people of faith or beliefs, or anything of that nature. Um, and I think a lot of it is more trying to just give people at least a perspective that maybe they're not familiar with, or maybe they are, and that they just can understand that, hey, there's someone else who kind of shares the same, thinking, or has similar stuff. And again, I think that's something that does benefit us as a whole. When you find, I mean, obviously, it's always something, where you kind of understand that, like, of course, there's other people. I'm not alone. Da 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 da. But it's like, to a certain degree, you kind of think, oh, well, yeah, but then there's this, and I feel like I'm the outcast here, or this, or I feel like I'm the outlier, or I stand alone, or whatever the case is. And it's like, I feel in that same kind of familiarity, but I realize that, over, viewing different types of, things, content, all this other stuff, I'm realizing that it's not just a simple aspect of oh, well, this thing, I feel like I'm only, well, some people understand it, or they understand it to this degree but not to the same degree that I have. So I think a lot of this is me putting it out there so that I don't have to keep having these kind of reflections of these things that occur. But there's definitely a lot of things that I want to do in terms of reviewing TV shows, reviewing, music and different types of albums and stuff that I, am either a fan of, or I only know a couple songs, but I want to see if there's other things. Because especially for music, I feel like a lot of people have this kind of subset, or even just a generic grouping of songs that they maybe listen to on repeat, and you can try to listen to new songs, but it just, it doesn't come off the same. If you listen to heavy metal, or if you listen to rap, or if you listen to country, or whatever the case is, you kind of find a set of artists, or just songs in general, that you can always go to because they sound good, or they make you feel good, or whatever the case is, and then you kind of just stick with those. So I want to try to expand on that. TV shows especially, I want to try to review those types of things, or whether it be by season, or whether it be by the episodes themselves, and movies and stuff like that. I want to be able to kind of go over them and give them just a generic, or not a generic, but a general review of it. Because again, I've always found in that same pathway, where certain movies or certain shows, people will be like, oh, it's not that good, or oh, how could you watch that? It's like, I don't see how you can't watch it. My one of the things I would definitely be trying to review or have a topic on, which is kind of what this is, a topical Tuesday. It would be something where, like, movie critics would be something that I would go over, or something that I've witnessed, or the necessity of people thinking that violence are in video games, or whatever the case is. Like I said, I'm coming up with these as I go along. and I'm just writing them down so I have things that I think will be unique to me. And like again, some people might find it unique, some people might not. That's okay. That doesn't really affect me. I think it's just important for me to be able to kind of get that out there. So, for sure, I definitely want to try to do more in terms of just kind of getting that aspect out there and just going over different topics. Like I said, I want to be able to kind of showcase that there are maybe contrasting or just different perspectives to things that some people, I think, for the most part, get stuck in this idea where they're forced to believe something or, like something or dislike something because you have other people that are surrounding you that are telling you, oh, how could you like this or why would you like that? Da, 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 da. And it's like, again, it kind of goes back to what I was saying previously, where you do certain things that aren't for you, but you feel like it's better for you to kind of fit rather than kind of stand alone and just be like, well, I don't care. I like The Love Guru. I think it's a very funny movie. Oh, it was terrible. Who cares? It doesn't matter. If you like the movie, you like the movie. If you think Avatar is very, very dumb, that's fine too. Just because people will kind of, flood you with this, like, how could you think this? It's like you get to a point where it's like, well, obviously, who cares? It's just, that's my opinion. It doesn't matter. And it's like, right, but it's that same idea where it's like people, like, I'm not a critic in it of it. If I just don't like it, I just don't like it. But I'm not going to be like, oh, it was terrible. It should have done this. Da, 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 da. Like, for example, the Avengers movies, I've always enjoyed, the Marvel movies, but in the same kind of explanation of the Marvel movies, I understand where Martin Scorsese makes the point that Marvel movies aren't really in the same kind of category as a movie you would think before Marvel was doing this whole thing, because everything about the Marvel movies is kind of very cookie cutter. You always have the same idea where you have it where you introduce who the person is, and then you show the villain, and then oh, we can't beat the villain, they're too powerful. Oh, I can't do it. And then you have this thing go along where eventually they're like, oh, I found the power, and then obviously evil loses in the end. My issue with that is that I feel like it's kind of stupid to have a hero that exists continuously, which I understand why, but the villain, who is kind of the main, that's the kind of combat that you have, especially in the comics, whatever. These villains don't usually die. They persist. They're constant. They're always around. Now you can say whatever. Oh, well, how do you keep a movie, whatever? But my interpretation of that would be, it's just there's got to be a way that you can have this story told without removing the villain. Just because you think, well, if we make Thor 2, we can't have, Loki be around, or, the Destroyer, or whatever the case is. And it's like, well, technically you can. It's just it doesn't have to be the main focus of the next movie, or the Dark Elves, or whatever. But one of the biggest things that I always, and I get flack for this all the time, but the Avengers, I think, Endgame was great. It was it was an interesting movie. Everything about how it played was fantastic. The only problem I had was that they kind of wrote themselves into a corner and created an ending that would only be happening because of time travel. And since time travel isn't something that you can really use as a way of, we don't have any real evidence of it. So there's a lot of free, like, there's a lot of liberties that you can use with that. Oh, well, time travel, we'll use this and we can do it this way. And it's like, well, every kind of, understanding of time travel is very, very confusing. And that was what I was thinking in the theaters of, like, how are they going to do this? It's been 5 years and, the snap occurred, people have disappeared, life has moved on. What could possibly be the way that they find Thanos and do and undo what he did? They're like, well, we'll just go back in time. And it's like, oh, come on. It's like, like, I understand to a certain degree why you would need to do that, but there has to be another way. Maybe go to an alternate universe. That I can understand, and I mean, that's kind of still changing time to a certain capacity, but you're not changing the current time. Or, like I said, obviously I'm not and again, this kind of goes back to what I was saying before. I didn't make any movies like that, so maybe I'm not really as versed in it, but I at least understand that storytelling to a certain degree it doesn't, like, time travel kind of muddies the water. It kind of puts it in this weird place where you now have to kind of just accept it, and there's nothing else to it. Oh, we went back in time. That's it. Yeah, that's it. We figured it out. And it's like, well, sort of, but you kind of forced it because you kind of put yourself into like you kind of wrote yourself into a corner, and you don't really have any way of going around it besides like opening up a secret wall behind you and going, aha, now I go around. And it's like, well, then you shouldn't have wrote yourself into that. There should have been a longer kind of expansion of that. But I understand the need for the multiverse and all the other stuff. So like, I'm fine with it. That was my main issue, was that it's like, okay, and this is part of it. You have time travel that's now been introduced into it. And I guess you can say, oh, well, they took the Pym particles out and da da da. I'm sure there's a way to recreate those. You know, some villain or whatever the case is going to figure out that you guys did that and is going to start utilizing that. Or there's probably other ways to do it. Sure, you know, Tony Stark is now dead, but at the same time, you know, you still have the equations, I guess. You have all of it down. So, and this is what I'm saying. These are type of the things that I would try to get into more in depth, because I think there's a lot to these types of things. And again, there could be other people that feel the same way. Other people who might think, "Oh, how could you say that? It's just a movie. Time travel's fine." Blah 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 blah. And it's like, yeah, that is. I guess I don't care. I think that there probably could have been a better way to handle that movie than going back in time and stopping him that way. It's cool, I guess, but you know, the same way that you had to go back and get the gauntlet, I mean, you could have just done that and then got the gauntlet yourself. Whatever. Like I said, these are just things that I'm kind of riffing on, but so that's kind of the idea. You know, I think this is going to be something where I want to kind of do these on a weekly basis, and I kind of want to do it on my own schedule because I do have a job outside of this, and I kind of want to add this as a part of my routine for life. You know, besides enjoying video game and besides you know, playing on Twitch with, you know, certain games. And I'm probably going to try to start streaming on YouTube as well, but I don't know what games I want to do because the games I do on Twitch are different. But again, these are things that I'm working out with this channel going forward. And I think that's something that I've always wanted to do, but I never found that timing or thought it was the right time, and I just think I have to just kind of go with it. So I'm enjoying this, and this is also kind of more of a impromptu kind of free way of doing this. It's not really written down, or I'm just kind of going off the top of my head. So yeah, so the main thing is I want to be able to kind of showcase the things that I've always come across, the things that I find interesting about life, and things that I find interesting overall, whether it be TV, movies, music, art, you know, certain elements of our life, you know, like crime or laws or, you know, sexuality. I don't know. There's a lot of things that obviously we have in our lives that are kind of, I don't want to say confusing, but kind of leave people in a position of like, well, how are we supposed to, you know, well, maybe I can give some type of at least insight as to what it could be. Not that I'm living every single example of these things, but it's something that I assume other people think about throughout life, because there's other things that go on, but there's also those times where, you know, there's nothing going on and you're kind of just in this chill moment, and then there's these things that kind of happen where you're like, well, what about this? And it's something, you read something or you see something, and it kind of gets your mind going about these types of things. So yeah, so I definitely want to start doing more topic things, but that's what this channel is mainly going to be about, is just trying to, you know, Fridays and Mondays are going to be the stuff that I was doing, you know, where it's Motivational Monday or Freeform Friday, where it's just a video of me doing, you know, the stuff in GTA or whatever the case is. And I'm sure over time I'll change that out, you know, I'll transition to something else, whatever the case is. But that will obviously come in time. And then the topics will always be something that I have, you know, because as we, you know, society is always changing and there's always things happening that I think will always be something to touch on. So yeah, I think that's pretty much what I want to do with this. I don't want to go too far or too long with this. I feel like the long video forms are kind of, even myself go, that's a lot of time, I'm going to watch it, whatever the case is. So I think with that, I'll just kind of end it with this channel is going to be very, very, in my opinion, different from what I usually see on YouTube, and just on all types of like streaming stuff all over. And if you like it, again, leave your comments. If you don't like it, that's fine. It doesn't really matter. Share your stories, feed your darkness to me. Let me see what's going on out there. And there's nothing wrong with kind of telling your truth, even if it is to some random person, because that's usually, yeah, at least it's getting out there. You get to kind of, endure it and kind of get through it that way. I feel like that's always something that's worked for me, is just kind of writing it down or speaking the truth or speaking it to truth, so that way I can kind of see, okay, this is what happened, this is how it went down, wow, whatever. So yeah, so again, this is the darkness, and I will catch you next time.